Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else in between, because we've got to say that these days. And welcome to the Outpost Frequencies live stream, brought to you by thelastmovieoutpost.com for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about films. I'm your host, not George Lucas, and with me as always this evening is Sean.
Sick of blood.
And his
Was that
best
English?
French accent.
That's Russian. That's Russian.
is it?
You have to look it up.
My favourite line of Russian is the in The Great Escape, where he says, Danny, I didn't know you spoke Russian. Yes, but only one line. What is it? Я вас люблю. Я вас люблю. Yeah. What does that mean? It means I love you. I love you. What bloody good is that? I don't know. I wasn't going to use it myself. Anyway. And then we've also got with us Drunken Yoda as well.
How are you guys doing now that World War III has broken out since the last time we talked? Got the Russians in there blowing up buildings, killing women and children, not respecting anyone's pronouns. I mean, no, have you
the
seen?
Real tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, they're misgendering corpses. It's really disgusting. You know, don't dead name those dead children. What's wrong with you?
And in the news, they haven't mentioned how many cinemas have been hit in the Ukraine, which is unfortunate for us because of the movie news. It's almost as like it's not that very important.
Is it just amazing just watching something like this happen, and you see these purple-haired, self-involved children screaming about my pronouns? I mean, don't you just want to just smack them all in the face with a shovel at this point?
Mm.
No, you want to kind of put them on the front line. You know,
well,
they demand equality.
Well, well, we want to win the war, though, George. See.
I see. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm laying down my weapons.
Yeah. Now, if cannon fodder is part of your strategy, I'm good with it.
Yeah, so that's going on. But in the meantime, we're not going to do politics. I'm just saying, has the live stream gone live? Because I've got it up on my thing and I can't see it.
I was getting ready to say the same thing, but yeah, it is. It's not live on my desktop, but I just checked on my phone and we are live. So I don't know.
Okay. It's not on my desktop either, which is weird.
Well, it's showing up on the thing, although it is bitching about my keyframe frequency, which since I reloaded this whole damn thing, it's
it's still saying waiting on.
Yeah, I know it, but on my phone it's showing. I mean, I'm watching. I mean, I pulled it up on the YouTube app and. I don't know what.
That's weird. Oh, well, if there is anybody listening, could you just type a little message to say hello, just to see whether we are
as far as I can tell,
through?
there is nobody actually watching or listening to this shit. Except for maybe you, Sean, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm watching it, so...
Well, annoyingly, I've got it on two screens as well.
Did you give us a like?
I did. I always
okay,
like
so that's where we got our like and our viewer. So you're
I've got...
You're juicing the numbers here, man.
I'm using my sock account and my regular account, so.
Whoa, we got two! Wow, I mean, this is double figures.
Yeah. I refreshed and we're live on my desktop, so don't worry about it.
I have two concurrent viewers. Yes, I do. So that's nice.
Like I say, I've got them on both of mine. But anyway, like I say, the whole war that's going on is obviously awful, but we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to try and get our minds off things and talk about movies so that we can just, forget the outside world for a little while, because the war will still be going on by the time we finished. Hey, what is that light coming towards me?
What is that noise?
I feel kind of sick.
Experiencing technical issues.
I feel kind of sick and my teeth are getting loose. I don't know what's going on.
We may actually I think we should talk about the post-apocalyptic movies, because I mean there's a great one called Whistle Down the Wind, which is all about a nuclear war. It's a cartoon, and it was by the same animator who did the Snowman, which is the walking in the air, this Christmas thing. But he also did this other one where two old people basically slowly die because of radiation poisoning.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
I'm really
not as funny as the book.
I'm really concerned that post-apocalyptic pieces are going to start being called period pieces.
Yeah.
Which and the devastation was absolutely terrible. Which film are you talking about, George? No, it's outside my house.
It's fun to joke about these things when we're not the ones getting bombed.
Obviously,
there's still people looking at Ukraine going, still looks better than Detroit.
Yeah, it literally looks better than some places in Minnesota after last year.
Yep,
or year before last, I should say.
Anyway, so we Yoda. First of all, you said you had some news.
Do I have some news? I don't have any news.
I thought you said you had some an intro thing that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I already did it, man. Keep up. It's my whole Russian misgendering bullshit.
Oh,
clearly it went over like a lead balloon. All this work of comedy writing and
I must admit,
trying to get this right. You just
good thing you didn't
trash
it. That was 200 quid wasted from Woody Allen to write that joke.
God damn it! That's how the company account too. I got to write that off somehow.
I must admit, I haven't really heard the news as such because my TV is out, my TV area is out, so I haven't actually seen the news. So the world could have ended, and I just haven't got a clue. But I haven't seen the whole misgendered thing and everything else. So that's why it went over my head. I'm ignorant.
They really are on Twitter being like, "Oh, let's not forget to use the proper pronouns when reporting these things." There's already been
I'm trying to juxtaposition the silliness of Western civilization versus the actual reality of horror that's going on here. But since I have to explain the whole fucking joke now, thanks, George. I appreciate it. You screwed it all up. I don't like you anymore.
He's probably more of a Jerry Lewis kind of comedian anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you fell off your chair, I would be in hysterics.
I bet you would.
Holding a drink. And
Fat man fall down, go boom.
Can you act more like Mr. Bean? Whoa, how's that, George? Is that funny?
Should I do a silly walk for you? Would that help?
Sorry, that Mr. Bean of holding a bottle of water. Oh, that classic episode. Anyway, so let's get on to the main subject then.
Please.
We have. I was going to say, have you? We've all seen now Licorice Pizza, haven't we?
Yes.
Okay. I did the review, didn't I? On the site.
Yes, you were the one that wrote the review just a few days ago.
I've slept since then.
I was going to say, you must have been miserably drunk.
Is Licorice Pizza, is that a thing? Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm probably going to say the same as Sean, that if I had seen it last year, it would have made my top 5 list. In a nutshell, because I think we'll break it down. Hopefully we won't go too much into the story and stuff, but we will break it down. But I mean, in a nutshell, what did you guys make of it?
I loved it when the aliens invaded.
I liked it when the girl stabs the main character guy in the back of the neck with that ice pick. I did not see that coming.
Didn't see that coming either. And that was before the aliens invaded.
I think I might have seen a different movie.
Who wants to go first?
You go ahead. You had some really good stuff to say about it before we went on live, so go ahead.
Okay, so I did not enjoy it as much as my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson right now is still Punch Drunk Love. I did not find it quite as engaging as that or as Boogie Nights. That being said, I don't want this to sound like I thought it was a bad movie or anything, but I think it had a few weaknesses in terms of editing and flow. There was a lot of just like little vignettes of things that kind of happened, but there wasn't as good a connectivity in terms of plot. Now, thematically, I thought it was perfect, and my take on the theme is finding unconventional love where you can, and if you find somebody that you really connect with, that you shouldn't let different things get in the way. And I think this was illustrated by You had so many different representations of relationships strewn throughout the movie. You had her, the girl, trying to have a conventional relationship with an older guy who embarrassed her in front of her family by proclaiming he was atheist and straight up said, I don't pray. He wasn't rude or anything about it.
No,
but
it was.
It was. I mean, I would say he was even respectful, but I would say also he's kind of disrespectful to her. It's like, okay, just put your damn head down, do it, and then when you leave and talk with her and say, look, I don't think it's going to work out because I'm not religious, and if I have to do that with your family, he could have been a little bit more, I guess, compassionate about the whole thing, but instead just straight up embarrassed her in front of her family, and then.
I'm just to interrupt. I'm just trying to think of a movie where a guy has kind of lied about his religion just to get some, because I'm sure there must be a romantic comedy, maybe with Adam Sandler or something in it, where he's done that.
I think The Passion of the Christ, maybe. I'm going to hell for that one, aren't I?
Yeah, disavow. Drunken Yoda's views are his own. I love you,
the Pope
Jesus.
is like, "Why, you son of a bitch! I'm going to." Then you've got the next relationship we see is the American guy that has a Japanese wife that is horribly racist to her. He doesn't actually speak Japanese, but he talks to her like, what do you think of that? It's like, oh my God.
I couldn't quite equate what he was trying to do until it dawned on me that that's how he thinks she speaks.
Yeah, that's the only way she could understand him if he said it.
Yeah. She dumps him, so he just takes the next Japanese girl up because they all look alike, apparently. I mean, it's just horrifyingly bad.
And she sits there with completely pissed off. And you can see it in her face. The biggest laugh of the movie for me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he did it twice. I was brilliant. Like, oh my God, he's doubling down on this shit. Literally doubling down.
Yeah.
And so that's a terrible relationship. And then she tries to get it on with a much older guy, William Holden. I know he had a different name. His last name was Holden, but he was clearly William Holden, the actor.
Yeah.
And he just uses her as a prop. So much so that she just falls off the back of the motorcycle while he's getting ready to do a stunt for no reason other than they're all drunk and they're just weirdo Hollywood people that do this kind of shit on a golf course one night, set fire to a golf course and try and jump over it with a motorcycle. He doesn't even give a shit.
You guys don't ever do that very often?
No.
It's every Friday night over here.
Well, you're weird. But, I mean, all of this kind of leads up. And finally you get to she volunteers for a and people are saying, well, you're just telling me random stuff. I'm saying this because this is kind of how it happened in the movie. There's just random shit that just keeps happening.
Yeah, it's sort of like you get a little slice of life section.
Yeah.
Through 5 years, I think.
I don't think it was that long.
Because at one point he's
still 15 and she's still 25 at the end, the way they talk about it.
No, she mentions at one point she's 28, and then so
he'd be 18.
Yeah. So like about 3 years passed during what we see, because she mentions that she's 28.
That wasn't very clear because it felt like at one point I thought a lot of time had passed, and they still say, well, you're 15. She still calls him 15. So I'm like, what? It's only like 3 weeks passed, and they've opened up a waterbed store and closed a waterbed store, and now he's opening up a pinball pallet. I kept thinking, where's he getting all this fucking money to do all this?
He's because he's a child actor, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't know if he
I've got to ask, was the program that he was on, was that a real program?
Yeah, he was on it's supposed to be like I Love Lucy.
He's based off a real guy.
Yeah.
He's based off a real actor. Whether or not this particular guy had a relationship with somebody older than him, and that's where this all came from, or if it was just more of a Quentin Tarantino, alternate universe kind of thing, or just based on some real people. But because I know William Holden was named Tom Holden or something different.
Yeah, Sam Holden, I think.
Sam Holden. And I know that director was based off of somebody real.
The guy that directed The Bridge of Toko-Ri, which is also referenced with a slightly different name in the movie.
That was the other thing. It's like, well, they kept bringing in kind of real and kind of fake people, or fake people based on real people. So it felt a little disjointed in that sense. Like, either go with all real people, even if it's a fake story, or go with all fake people. But don't switch back and forth like that.
That was kind of a confusing choice. That's kind of a weird choice on that. I don't know.
But then,
I didn't even have an issue with that.
I didn't have an issue. Yeah, I didn't have an issue either.
It did jump from different things, and now you mention it, I kind of think about it and go, "Oh, yeah, I suppose it did." But I didn't have an issue whilst watching it that it was doing that.
Well, some of this I gauged through my wife. My wife is she wants.
Nobody cares about a woman's opinion on a movie. I can't believe you listened to her.
If you're actually watching this,
did she ask questions all the way through?
No, but my
Who
wife.
Are those people?
Look, my wife.
Are they going to get together in the end, Yoda?
Well, that's just it. She likes McDonald's type movies, and I mean very conventional. And that's not a criticism. I like McDonald's type movies as well. I like a Marvel movie as much as the next guy. I like just plain old, just entertain me, just give me a very conventional story. I like that. That doesn't mean I don't like unconventional stuff like Paul Thomas Anderson. But most people don't like this. I mean, there's a reason why Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't make $100 million from his movies, even his best stuff. I mean, it just doesn't happen because he has a very unconventional style, kind of like Wes Anderson, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not faulting her or anything like that, but she is a handy gauge to watch when somebody's trying to follow a movie, and she's just not used to this type of storytelling, so it's very difficult for her to follow it. And we
call those normies.
Okay, normies. But I mean, I don't want that to sound like a pejorative.
Non-nerd types.
We're the pejoratives.
We're the learned intellectuals of film. She's just a woman.
Where's my pipe?
Yeah, we're the assholes.
I mean, PTA makes movies probably for guys like us.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't, but I think that she had a point when she's like, well, wait a minute, where are they now? And trying to follow these jumps in moments, and some of that I think works well. Like I think Punch Drunk Love and Boogie Nights, it all worked perfectly. In this movie, it felt a little disjointed to me. And I don't know. I can't pin it down on why.
Well, it's got a sort of a fairy tale atmosphere. I think that you're supposed to have this hazy, romanticized, rose-colored nostalgia glasses that sort of blur how much, because there's a lot of stuff in it that it's in the 70s, but it kind of, like the gasoline shortage, but Nixon is president and this and that. It's sort of like,
well, there was
kind of
one
hazy.
During Nixon's.
I know,
there
but
was one in the Carter one too.
So it's all hazed up a little bit, I think. So you don't ever really get and I think it's on purpose. It's to give you this dreamy quality of when is it's somewhere,
well, funny.
Once upon a time kind of thing.
You say that, but one of the things, and this is an absolute compliment to the movie. I love this about the movie, but everything is ugly as sin. The characters are ugly as sin. She's not a good-looking lady. I mean, she's okay.
Nope.
Disavow. That's anti-Semitic.
He's not a good-looking guy. Everybody in this is ugly as sin. I mean, they really are.
Very well. I mean, not that we're all three Rob Lowe, but
no,
they're they're normal people. That's what
I like about it.
Yeah, right.
I'm considered handsome in England.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm never going there.
Would you put on the stormtrooper helmet, please? No, that's what I liked about it, is that everybody looked interesting. Everybody had an interesting look about them, even if they weren't good looking or. I mean, I say ugly. That's not really fair. It's more like they aren't plastic pretty people.
Well, they're not Hollywood.
Turns out everybody looks exactly like they came off a assembly line. of perfect.
I think I said that in my review, that most romantic comedies have got Jennifer Aniston or Sandra Bullock, and they don't get me wrong. Obviously, they're very beautiful women, but they're sort of movie beautiful. That that if you saw them in the street, you would be like, oh my god, and all this kind of thing, because they're so they're beyond beautiful. They're not the kind of person that you see on the street. And both Gary and Elena were. They were just normal people,
right?
Normal,
which
not
makes
like
them
you
more
say that plastic.
Beautiful
yes,
is dull at this point. It really is. There was it was all that 70s horrible, that everything looked horrible, wood paneling, even the nice places looked like shit. And in a good way.
Live in a place like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is all in a good way. This all goes to the atmosphere of the movie. You never feel like you're not in the 70s, which was a kidney stone of a decade. And I loved that look, and I love that feel. And like I said, getting back to the theme, the final thing that she sees is the two gay guys that can't have a relationship because the one guy is trying to run for mayor, and he certainly can't out himself. And the other guy just feels like, he's got this person that he does connect with, but they can't because of external stuff. And that's when it clicks with her that she needs to be with Gary.
Yeah, because she spends the whole movie kind of afraid,
denying, being afraid.
Their age difference. You can see she can't overcome it, and then she sees these. Yeah, she sees these two, and she's like, "This, what am I doing? What am I holding off on this? Other than the obvious legal aspects early in the movie."
Agreed, but it's never portrayed. In the 70s, you could have that kind of shit, right? I mean, you have kids smoking on screen and stuff.
Hey, listen, my dad was 19 and married my mom when she was 16 before he went to Vietnam. In the 60s. The 70s, 60s, that was not a big deal. But
in the 1860s, you were getting married off at 14. So I mean, because you were going to be dead at 35. That was middle-aged.
But also, Gary was incredibly mature for his age.
He was.
Obviously, being an actor,
even though
he said he was a performer, he was, he was really mature for his age. I would have known about the difference.
Me and Yoda was talking about that before you come on. It was that she thinks she's the one that's the mature one, and Gary's actually the one that has his life on the ball and shit together, and she's kind of just. She goes along.
He says to her at one point, doesn't he, that if it wasn't for me, you'd still be taking photos in a high school. And he had introduced her to all this business and how to do business and how to run business and all this kind of stuff.
But she takes it up very fast too. That's another thing. Good. That's another good point in the movie is she's not. It doesn't go too far in either direction where he's the bumbling idiot. You know what I mean? Like most Hollywood movies now. And he
does the dumb things he does is because he's 15, not because he's a bumbling idiot.
Yeah, right. But he's still pretty competent.
He's very competent, but he's also 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
And, like they just like when they run out of gas in the truck. And she backs it down all the way and then coasts it all the way to get gas right near the gas station with no power. And she's like going, I can't believe like an older person would. I can't believe we fucking lived. And he's going, that rocked. That was awesome. It's like a teenager would act, That's
she looks shit. Yeah, she looks like a bomb just went off beside her and she survived,
And she's watching these kids use the gas cans and using the spouts like their dicks and doing what teenagers do, And it's like she has that moment. It's like, is this what I want to deal with?
Because again, it's kind of interesting that the fact that the kids, Gary has led his little gang, but they're running a business, and anybody who's run a business knows it's hard work, and so the kids are doing hard work, and so when they get to blow off a little steam, she's reminded that they are kids.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So I guess thematically, and the idea that he was trying to portray, at least the way I interpreted it, of finding love is weird and odd sometimes. And not necessarily conventional, but if it's real, you should take advantage of it. I think there is some concerns, especially with the way Hollywood is about this whole underage thing. But the way this is portrayed,
there's love, and there's Harvey Weinstein love,
right?
Now that could, I mean, it's very easy to take that modern times, but within context of the story. it's fine. And they don't do
is.
anything. There's no she doesn't take advantage. He's, it's not. No. I know a lot of people when I've told friends about it, they're like, oh, I was like, yeah, but it's not like that.
Well,
it's actually.
I think we say the closest thing we had to anything sex is when she finally, because they have an argument about, she said she would do nudity in a movie, trying to be an actress, and he got mad at her.
Yeah.
Understandably so. It's like, you won't show me your boobs, but you'll show the world. And so she finally shows him her boobs. And he goes, can I touch them? And she just whacks him.
Walks out.
Walks out. That's like, that was great.
That's another great thing about the movie is how she almost borderline abuses him he's like, you're a creep, you're stupid. I mean, she's all, and he just, it
all bounces off.
It don't even register. And it's,
I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I mean, I thought that they were just a married couple. They understood each other. So
that's
much.
What I said.
The
At one
scene
point,
that got me,
they're sitting at the newspaper.
Oh no, go on.
But yeah, the scene where they're at the table in the morning and he's reading the newspaper and stuff. It's like everybody knows they like married for 10 years except these two. Yeah.
The bit that got me was when I can't remember the argument they have, but she goes out and she goes, "Don't you get in that car?
Yeah.
if you start that car, I'm never going to talk to you again." And he starts it and he drives off. And like you say, I mean, we've kind of all had that argument with somebody that sort of said, "Don't you dare do that," and you just do it. And it, like you could tell that they were soulmates almost straight from the beginning.
Oh yeah,
I liked. Okay, I give this movie easily a 4 out of 5. Easily. Maybe a 4.
That's it? Just a 4 out of...
Maybe a 4.5. I mean, it's a...
Disavow.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not...
Your opinion is suspect now. I don't know, man, if we can even
Jesus
take
Christ. Look, as a movie, especially in the wasteland that is Black Widow, Marvel, DC... crap these days. It is fantastic. As a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, which I have a higher bar for, I just felt like there's some structural issues and some pacing issues that didn't work as well for me and took me, I felt like I sometimes had to reset and try to figure out where they were while the story is progressing, and they've moved on to something without any connective tissue that leads me to understand what's going on. Like if you blink and you miss it kind of stuff. And I don't want to have to just sit there like this the whole time.
He doesn't want to have to think about it, George.
I think there was some great stuff in the movie. I think thematically it's great. I just had some problems with the pacing and the plot editing more than anything.
It's a perfect film for me. I 5 out of 5. I'd give it more if we used a system that used more than 5 stars. It's my favorite movie of his.
4.63 out of 5. How about that?
Anyway.
I didn't get an issue. I must admit, I did have to watch it in about 3 parts just because of work and everything else, and so I kind of watched part of it and then another part and then I finished it off. But I didn't get any of what you're saying, that I got that it was disjointed. Now you've mentioned it, it's kind of, oh okay, yeah, actually I can see what Yoda's saying, but it didn't matter to me that when they finished one business they just sort of opened up another one, and just time moved on, and I figured it was over a period of a few years, but I just it didn't feel wrong.
Same here.
Well, what I was saying, I mean, there was a point in there where I thought it had been a few years, but she mentions that he's 15 or something like that, and you're thinking like, well, how much time has passed? I'm not sure. And so when I have questions like that, then I start, it starts taking me out when I want to just be enjoying these two people doing what they're doing, which I did enjoy so many moments of what they were doing, and watching this relationship ebb and flow, and watching their lives ebb and flow, and it does have a slice of life, man on the ground, fly on the wall kind of feel to it, where you're just watching just moments in a life, and that's okay. I don't know. There were times where I was just like,
I think I've watched
stepping
it
back
3
and
times.
trying to question, and then I go, well, wait a minute, what's going on here?
I've watched it 3 times since it hit, and one of the things, and I think, is she keeps referring to him as 15 through the whole movie, and she slips at one point and she says, so like, I'm 28, 25. And that's part of it, is she doesn't want to admit she's getting older, and because he calls her old woman at one point when they have that argument.
Yeah.
And that's when she says, I'm 25 and you're 15. And he's like, no, I'm old enough to smoke, and I think that's very subtly put in, that she is like feeling things slipping away, like and that plays into her whole like, oh, I'm working for this politician's campaign, I'm serious, I'm doing this. And I think that was a real subtle hint at one of the reasons that it makes the passage of time in the movie a little weird if you miss that sort of thing, because that's part of it too, is like, I'm getting older and she thinks this, and Gary of course has his shit on the ball, and she feels this weird, her biological clock ticking or whatever, I don't know, but I think that was you might have missed that little.
Well, I get what you're saying there. I didn't get it was a biological clock. She never once mentioned about kids or anything like that.
No, that was a joke. That was just a joke.
Yeah.
I was trying to be misogynist.
Well, keep working on that. Look, I've only seen it the one time.
In the opening.
That's right. I know funny. I'm funny.
I know Mr. Bean, so I'm funny.
I liked it a lot. I borderline loved it. But I think that he's had stronger outings. That's all I'm saying. I mean, if you're going to ask me, is it better than, freaking most of the stuff that's out there? Heads and shoulders above everything else that's out there.
Yeah.
I'm comparing it to other PTA movies, not your general Big Mac Shrek.
That's tough. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The man makes masterpieces. It's hard to put it in the pantheon of PTA movies. It really is. Any of his movies are kind of like, they're so deep. Some of them are so different than the others. You're like, well, that's a great, sort of comedy drama, and that's a great thriller period piece. How do you even compare them? How do you compare, Punch Drunk Love to There Will Be Blood? You can, on a technical level or whatever you can, but to say like, well, it's tough, man. He makes the man's a genius at it. I don't, what can you say?
She's sitting there on the pinball machine saying, I drink your milkshake. I wasn't expecting that.
Good callback.
The direction for me was, and again, I said this in the review, that he doesn't patronize the audience. Like you say, with a McDonald's movie is very much, these are the facts and here is everything. We have to spell everything out for you. Yeah. It's silly little things. Like, I always hate the fact that if you see a cat on the screen, it has to meow. And it's kind of, right, I know what a cat looks like. I don't need to hear it meow to know what it is, but some directors have to do that. And the scene that particularly got me was when they packed up the business and the truck left and stopped.
Yeah,
and at first you're thinking, oh, have they forgotten something? And then it's like, oh, no, they've run out of gas. And again, he just doesn't patronize the audience in that way. He lets you come to the joke and the conclusion yourself.
I agree. It definitely is not spoon feeding you, and it has some great moments in it that I think are hilarious. I loved everything with John Peters, that wacko. He's another example. He's a guy he's Barbara Streisand's boyfriend. He's completely effing that up, and he's running after every skirt in town, and he's a complete lunatic and doesn't seem to have any real lasting relationship in his life. I mean, all of that, fed into her figuring this out, which I thought was great.
The whole introduction of him with Gary was just brilliant.
Yeah.
The whole conversation that goes on.
Streisand?
Well, not just that, but also the fact, I will kill you. I will go to your house and kill your brothers and sisters and your mother, everybody. I will kill you.
Yeah. I want you to be horrified, Gary. I want you to be afraid for your life.
You're cocky. I like that about you. It swings so far back and forth.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen
the Lana as well?
Have you ever seen the Evening with Kevin Smith, or one of the things where he talks about making Superman Returns?
Mm-hmm.
That's John Peters that he's talking about. Yeah. That's this guy. and he's a complete and utter lunatic. So I mean,
because hang on, saying that when I looked it up, I had to look up who John Peters was, and he was a real person.
Yeah.
But it's then weird that you're saying that some of the other characters weren't
right. That's
real.
what's weird. Yeah,
like
that was
Sam Holden instead of William Holden. I mean, it's clearly William Holden. So why don't you just be William Holden? But we do. John Peters adds John Peters.
Yeah.
If you want to see him even more crazy, is watch that documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, where they talk about that he's in a big part of that movie, he himself, and he's talking in that, and you're like, how did this, only in Hollywood, I guess, does a guy like that make it to that level?
He used to be Barbara Streisand's hairdresser, and then he ended up producing the first Batman because, as Kevin Smith said, in Hollywood, you fail up.
No, he would know, unless you're Kevin Smith, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at the Star Trek right now. Clearly, Kurtzman continues to fail up.
Is it a fail up? There was always a wonderful theory that stormtroopers were a bad shot because they didn't want to get promoted, because if they got promoted, they were more likely to get killed by Vader. And it's kind of, the higher up the level you go, the more likely that Vader is going to kill you. So, it's like, oh, there's Luke Skywalker. Oh, missed him. Oh, there goes my promotion. And in Hollywood, it's kind of, who wants to be big in Hollywood at the moment where every finger is pointing at you and you're going through these awful situations? And it's kind of, right, who can we make a scapegoat?
You say that, but I look at I'm going to go back to Star Trek. Yeah, Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard. It's a laughingstock. The Kelvin universe is a bit of a laughingstock. All of it's done by Kurtzman, and it's all terrible, and everybody keeps complaining about it. I don't know if Strange New Worlds is going to be any good or not, but I don't have a lot of hope for it. And yet they're renewing more seasons. They're bringing him in. He can still do more stuff. How is that not failing up? I don't know. He keeps getting money. He keeps getting more shows. What would you call it?
The only thing I can figure out on these things is either tax write-offs for the failure or blackmail.
Well, Paramount doesn't have very much left as far as big, tentpole IPs that they. Yeah. Disney's bought up most of them.
That's the plot of the producers, isn't it? That if they make a film that or a production that fails, they could make more money. So maybe that's what they're all doing.
Maybe Paramount's trying to get bought by Warner or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It is always like that, though. They double down on awful almost every time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand that this has been going on in Hollywood for a while, but you at least had some pretty competent screenwriters back in the day and competent people that actually did the work, even if the producers. But now they're all John Peters.
It's the same thing with comic books right now, too. They restart or relaunch a title. It might make it to 12 issues before it's canceled. It don't sell. Everybody hates it. And then they just have the same writers trying to get the same crap, all woke, of course. And they just don't learn their lesson from it. They just keep going. It's like, what is the point of this?
Yeah, that's the weird thing.
They just recently had Superman get raped. Who did they write that for? Yeah, I'm not joking. There's a he gets
Kryptonian rape victims representation.
I mean, doesn't that who are they writing that for? Honestly,
that's just crazy. I mean, again, it's just kind of to me, I think of Superman. I think of the Christopher Reeve Superman. That's what I grew up on. I remember that, and how pure Superman was, and how he fought for truth, justice, and the American way, and everything else. And the thought of him being raped.
They've changed that, by the way. It's no longer truth, justice, and the American way. It's truth, justice, and a better tomorrow.
Well, that's a prime example of a Western country that's decided to hate itself and thinks it's the worst and evil ever, because you got we haven't had any real problems for the last 30 years since the fall of the Soviet Union until now. Yeah, we had 9/11, we had some problems, and a lot of them were our own making, but we've been fat and
so you're saying
happy for way
9/11
too
was
long.
an inside job?
No. I'm saying we've been fat and happy way too long. And these kids, these millennials, they don't know anything about hardship, so they're just looking for some weird meaning and creating all this. That's how you end up with saying that pronouns are somehow important.
Yeah. When ultimately it's not important at all.
No,
I mean, it's so important you've got to list it on your social media bio. You know?
I see this on LinkedIn, and I just roll my eyes and go, you've lost the plot. You don't understand what real important things are anymore.
There was a chap over in the UK, and he sued a train company because the train conductor, which we still have over here, the train conductor said, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen," and didn't appeal to his pronoun of whatever it was, and he sued the train company for it. And again, it's kind of, the train conductor was perfectly, just being polite and saying hello to everybody, and yet somehow it was a problem for this one person.
I'm sure the dead women and children in the Ukraine are very happy that we're paying attention to these sorts of things. It's just we're a silly country. We don't have. I know this is a channel that talks about Star Wars way too much, but I mean, quite frankly, what I'm trying to do with this whole channel, and I'm going to be serious here for a second, but this whole website, this whole channel is about talking about the culture, because I think the culture has gotten so screwed up with most of the mainstream, and we've talked about it a million times, our mainstream heroes, our mainstream stories, the things that are supposed to inspire us, are causing us to hate ourselves. And this is coming into the real world where we're just allowing this shit to happen. We don't care.
We do. Obviously, films have always been influenced by the culture and what is going on in the media and all that kind of thing. We talked earlier about Russian. One of my favorite films is Stalker, which is a Russian movie, but that was all based around what was happening in the Soviet Union around the 80s and so forth. And just as an intro, sort of kind of an off topic, but just to sort of get serious with something not serious, but I do think that we live in a culture now where somebody said on Twitter the other day that we shouldn't slag off the Star Wars sequels because some kids are growing up thinking that's, they're the greatest movies because that's their introduction to Star Wars. And to me, that I immediately thought to myself, that's like feeding a kid like a turd sandwich and telling them that's what sandwiches taste like. You can eat it and it will fill you up, but it tastes like crap. And it's kind of, but are we living in a society now where entertainment has gone down? I'm not I suppose in line with, like, say, Idiocracy, but one big TV program that's on over here quite a lot is called Gogglebox, and all it is people reacting to watching television. So you've got people sat at home, normal people, they started out as, and they watch TV and they react to it. So when somebody dies on Coronation Street, one of the soap operas over here, they all go, "Oh, grief and all this lot." And they get now higher viewers than some other programs that are made. And I think to myself that there are programs that are still made over here, like, say, for example, and this is just off the top of my head, but like Doctor Who. Now, with Doctor Who, you've got script writers and special effects guys and all these guys and all these people that have made this TV series. And they may get, like, say, 10 million viewers, but then you've got a bunch of people watching your program who get twice as many figures. And this is what's entertainment these days. And when we are presented, going back to Licorice Pizza, when we're presented with something that is so brilliant and so well made and an intelligent movie, the audiences go, "No, I don't really like that."
Well, and George, one of the things that I think it was Andrew Breitbart, but say politics is downstream of culture, right? So if you're tearing apart and deconstructing, Luke Skywalker and Superman and all these touchstones of Western culture, American culture for sure, but Doctor Who for British culture, James Bond, right? We're talking about tearing him to pieces. And,
Mr. Bane.
But if this is what we're feeding into our youth, that these things are wrong and terrible, and that, love of your country and love of what's good and pure is wrong, and we got to deconstruct it, and the people that are in charge of this are all, let's face it, mostly pedophiles or sexual deviants, and just to show you that nothing is worth caring about. Then when real shit happens, why are we surprised that no one cares about it?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's the thing.
You're absolutely right.
Most of it is propaganda now. That's what they're doing. It's to subvert everything. You
cannot tell what the truth is.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the even the entertainment. It's propaganda. It's meant to sway you, indoctrinate you, and that's what they're doing. That's what they've been doing for a while now, and that's what it is. It's subverting because that's what they want. Is this? They want the old system, so to speak, destroyed. The old values, the old morality, to use a line from Apocalypse Now. They want it gone because then they can do what they want after that.
Yeah. So that's why we have these long conversations about stuff that seems less important than what's going on in the real world, because I think that taking back the culture is that's the problem with conservatism in general and the right, or whatever you want to call it. Anybody who's not insane progressive leftists, is that we talk too much about tax policy and bullshit like that. That's all fine, well and good, but there are fundamental ideals and morals and things that we disagree on now. The free speech, right? Yeah. Whether or not your country is good or not. I mean, this all happened because he's been tearing apart the culture for the last 15 years. So, I feel like this is important to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely it is, because that has led to this.
Yeah.
And
so
all of that stuff is spoon-fed to, millennials and Zoomers, and it's become this thing now, like you said, where you click on it and you see something pops up in your newsfeed that says, wow, censorship really is a good thing. Yeah. Here's why, Yeah.
That's why I'm rooting for the Daily Wire. I haven't seen their movies yet, but that they're trying to do something that is entertaining and has, actual artistic value that isn't about deconstruction. Like everything's deconstruction now. It's just
that's a good point. Are you guys familiar with the Your Movie Sucks channel?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't watched it.
Yeah, so he reviewed the Daily Wire, whatever, Ben Shapiro's company, their new movie, and he makes a big thing out of how it's pushing a view and art can just be art, and this is so, and it's like, man, you don't even. First of all, he's Canadian, so take that. Well, I'm not saying it to insult him, but they're liberal, they're leftist, more or less.
Oh, they just,
and it's like,
take it up the butt. They don't care.
Yeah, well, he is gay, so be careful.
Well, I don't mean that. I mean just they're they apparently love authoritarianism. I guess
he's not trying to abuse a fellow creator. YouTube. That was a but anyway, but he makes this thing out of like, oh, it's you shouldn't make, and it's like, and I'm watching this, I'm thinking, dude, that's damn near every Hollywood movie, and I have not once seen him come on there and be like, Jesus, you could make a movie without pushing leftist propaganda basically and normalizing this stuff. But of course he don't see that because he agrees with most of it, and therefore he don't notice it.
Well, I talked about one way back when that came out. This was forget what, American Carol, and it was supposed to be a humorous take, but from a conservative perspective on why the country is good and why we're fighting terrorism. Now this was back in like 2006, somewhere around in there, and it was making fun of a Michael Moore type guy. That was the whole point. I agreed politically with everything in that movie. I at least at the time. Probably still would. That doesn't mean the movie wasn't terrible.
Yeah, and that's the problem with when they
try. That's just why they fail, because just because I agreed with everything in the movie didn't mean the movie was funny. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was not funny or entertaining at all.
It wasn't. It was terrible. So, I mean, it's not that you're pushing an agenda. Are you doing it effectively? And are you doing
Yeah, South Park does it right.
Yeah.
Not that they're right, not that they're hardcore rightists, but they're at least sane, Yeah. And so they do it right.
I mean, they didn't like Trump, that was clear, but they also don't like all the authoritarian nonsense and the hypocrisy.
Right. It's kind of funny how they do it with a level of respect.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
almost.
If you're coming from a place of truth, you could do that. I mean, I made fun of Trump. You guys know it. I've done it.
But it's funny the way that you can and can't do things. I mean, I used to be a photographer, and there were people that I knew didn't like me, and so they would not like my photos. And I'd say why, and it's just like, just don't like them. Whereas kind of like there's zero respect in that. But if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, I don't like that photo because I don't think you framed it," or whatever it might be, that's completely different. That you can still have that respect for somebody, even though you may hate their guts or whatever it might be, have completely zero tolerance for their beliefs or anything else, but you can still have that respect for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's, a lot of people sort of think of South Park as just sort of this silly, bunch of guys taking mick out of everything else and everything else. But I think Matt and Trey are really on the ball. And okay, I won't say they have respect for other people and everything else, but they're not just saying that it's stupid for stupid's sake. They are saying this is stupid because, and explaining it so that people can actually get the point.
Stuff. Yeah. Did you guys ever watch a show? I watched it because it was Captain Kirk was on it. It was called Boston Legal, and James Spader.
I've heard of it.
I never watched it, but I've seen clips of it, and I know why that you're bringing it up.
Yeah.
So
it's a very liberal show, and they would argue these things in court, issues of the day, many, many different issues of the day. Most of the time I disagreed with them, but they very rarely, if ever, portrayed the other side arguing as stupid. They did it in a way that was that they had to make their arguments better, Now, I'm sure I mean, they're the writers, so they can make it any way they want, right? So I'm sure they tailored it somewhat in their favor. But I still felt like, one, it was very funny and very entertaining. Two, they weren't always on the left side of things. And three, whichever side they were arguing, they made sure that they had the different viewpoints honestly and argued them out. And then you as the viewer. And
the facts and the details.
Right. So even as the viewer saying, I know which side they're on, at least I felt like I got a fairly balanced approach. And then on top of it, they were very entertaining, clever, and funny. That isn't what happens anymore.
No.
And that's doing a disservice to their own industry because they're going to go down the tubes. Sooner or later, that which can't continue will not continue. Sooner or later, the money's going to dry up one way or the other. People are not going to watch. And they're already starting to not watch. And so Ben Shapiro wants to make something, and it's halfway decent. Whether it's I probably will agree with it, but I'm not going to give it a pass if I think it's a badly
because
made
it's still
movie, because I want good character development, good story, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't want a pure propaganda piece. If you're going to at least do it right.
Right.
I think that I still feel a lot. That new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Dean brought it up last week, and
I watched that. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about it for a second.
Go ahead.
If you guys want to. But I think it really is anti-woke, and it's got some it's subtle, but not so subtle that the type that
subtle
it was making
is what I would use in that movie.
I mean the characters and how obnoxious they were. They made it subtle, but not so subtle that the kind of people it was sort of lampooning, they still noticed it. And I think that's where a lot of the negative maybe not from all quarters, but I've read some stuff online from professional, and I see they're like, oh, it's like, dude, it's a slasher movie. It's got nothing in it more egregious than any other slasher. You don't like it because you saw yourself in these people is the real problem, and you could see that if you didn't even really have to read between the lines. They almost said it, like they almost knew it, whether they were self-aware enough to spot it or not. But you could see in their writing it was obvious. And
I feel really bad because I didn't find the people all that annoying.
That's because you don't have to live around that kind of person all the time. And I'm not saying that like to, No. But you don't like.
I didn't find the two sisters that annoying. The rest of them.
Yeah. Well, the sister, the older sister, who was like, they go in there and she's like, "Do you have the deed?" It was such a strong woman. I'm going to put my foot.
Yeah.
And she had some, and in the end, I thought was great because it was such a,
I do have an issue with any slasher movie where, I mean, I get what they're trying to do and everything, and I enjoyed it. I had fun, but I shouldn't be rooting for Leatherface. I mean,
No.
all
Well,
things
that's-
being equal, you really shouldn't
all
be rooting. And yet,
franchise-
when he got on a bus, I'm like, carve them the fuck up.
Yeah.
As soon as he said, would make a movie and you're canceled, bro, I
Cancel,
was like,
yeah.
kill them all.
That's when that's when the movie lost 90% of all the Shield critics right there, because they were like, "Oh, that's something that we use. We cancel the bad guys." You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I suppose,
still
yeah, I
don't
can
know. Dean says they made it on purpose like that, but I don't know. Is is it even possible that they did that somewhere knowing what they were doing, or was that?
It's.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
it's similar
They knew what they were
to
doing.
what.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
It's similar to what happened in Matrix Resurrections, wasn't it? Because I mean, they were taking the mick out of Warner Brothers, and they were saying about how remakes are, they're not the end thing. And
I don't
again,
think it's the same. I don't think it's the same, because that was a snarky, oh, look at us and how. I know what you're saying, and you could almost.
I understand what you're saying though as
Yeah.
well. That, like I say, they're kind of sort of saying, "Oh, look at us, we're going to take the mick out of it because we know what's going on."
But
Type
we're
of
still
thing.
taking
Whereas,
the money, and we're still making a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
conventional movie
Yeah.
at the end. So, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think that they were trying. I think that they told the Suits and everybody they were going to do a slasher movie with, today's sensibilities in there, and then they took the piss out of them with, the cancel culture and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, I thought that the tension with the one sister where he's chasing her around and she's hiding most of the time, and it's, she has to be quiet, that kind of stuff. I thought that was pretty well done. I kind of enjoyed that. And then when she was in the crawl space and the chainsaw's chasing her and she has to get out the window, and all that was pretty good. Killing Sally Hardesty was,
Spoiler warning.
yeah. Well, people get chainsawed in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I hate to bring it up, but yeah, I mean,
but
I
then
like
again,
that.
you say that, but again, it's kind of one of those movies that could have been called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but Leatherface changed his ways and decided to be nice and kind to everybody now.
He's opened up a
I mean,
nonprofit.
you really get what the title delivers, promises in that
That's
one.
true.
Unlike
You
the
do.
original, you get a chainsaw and a legit massacre bloodbath.
Yeah, you can't say that about the first one.
You can't.
I think part of the problem I have with all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies is that they are beholden to the title. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first Texas Chainsaw Massacre was not a mass. Well, I mean, it was, but it wasn't what you expected it to be based on the title. It
wasn't. Yeah.
It was a descent into madness, and it was also the decay of rural America, and they brought up things like, vegetarianism versus eating meat, and how humanity is. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into this old movie, but I think there's a reason why it's had such staying power for so long, because I think there is a lot of undercurrent in there, whether they meant to or not, that really works thematically, and none of the others have done that. Just say, hey, get a chainsaw, get a bunch of dumb teenagers, let's carve them up.
But again,
Well, Toby Hooper didn't do himself any favors when he made that sequel with such a, comedy, basically.
Yeah, I need. I have never seen that one. I keep meaning to, and
I tell you what, skip that one and watch 3. 3. If you're going to watch a comedy Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the third one is more fun.
I have to go on a Texas Chainsaw Massacre binge.
But again, we're coming back to that point that how movies are influenced by what is going on at the time. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was, I mean, I missed it when it first came out, and I only watched it recently, so like in the last 10 years. It's a good movie. I didn't think it was a great movie, but then I wasn't growing up in America and seeing, like you say, that decay of rural community and that kind of thing. And so, to me, it was obviously a slightly different movie in the same respect that something like, again, off the top of my head, Attack the Block would be different for you guys, because I know what it's like to be on a London council estate, with people like that and that kind of thing. And so obviously it's different influences to different people, but they are still affected by the things that are going on around them at the time.
Well, let me ask you, George, because it's interesting the way you bring all that up. What's the underlying thing that we could say about all of this?
Yeah, I'm curious.
There's an undercurrent of truth in all of this. It was true that they were decaying. It was true that at Attack the Block you had those kinds of places, right? It was these things, the stuff that's happened in this new Chainsaw Massacre. It's true that you got a bunch of morons that would probably videotape and say something like, you were canceled, right?
Mm.
The reason why those work, I think, for us in their own weird special way is because there is kind of an undercurrent of truth and all that. Whereas let's just take Last Jedi or any of these woke nonsense that, they don't feel authentic. They feel false.
No, because
Luke
they're
Skywalker would not do that. He would not
they're promoting this leftist utopia ideal of what would happen, or
which
the way
is based on lies.
Yeah, right. Which is against human nature, reality.
Yes.
Everything
that's
that
why
you
they
know
don't
about
work.
the world. Yeah, everything you know about the world, they present that as not being real or true. This is the way it would be, and it's just not. And that's why it's like this comes off so fake,
I think that's what you came across. Like, even if you're coming, like a lot of these movies, whether we agree or disagree, the underlying thing that they're identifying in there is usually based on truth. We could say on Texas Chainsaw Massacre whether or not the decay of rural America was as bad, or that this problem needs to be addressed in a certain way, or else this could happen. We could, obviously after 50 years, you could say that's probably not the way it went. But the truth was that it was decaying and it was changing. We're only about, you talk about 1973. So, the Great Depression was barely 40 years ago at that time, and then you go 50 years ago, you're barely into cars. You still have people on horseback and covered wagons and horse-drawn carriages and things like that. There's still a lot of that out there. And that's not a lot of time for that kind of change that happened in those 50 years. So certainly what Tobe Hooper identified, there was a degree of truth in there. Whether or not it, this warning that they could all become crazy, leather-faced, weird, chainsaw-wielding maniacs is obviously not what happened, but
that we know of.
Of.
Not everywhere, at least.
Yeah, but my point is that the authenticity of what they are identifying and then growing this movie or this story out of there is so important. And there's no authenticity out of this woke nonsense. And that's what's got everybody up in arms all the time.
Again, the weird thing is that they are trying to pander, as we've said before, to 1 or 2% of people who seem to be offended by these things, but they have no vested interest in the property.
They're not authentically offended. That's my point. They're not authentic themselves.
They are either. Yeah.
The classic example of that, I saw a little meme about it recently. Speedy Gonzales got cancelled because it was offensive, and people in Mexico wrote to Warner Brothers saying, "What happened to Speedy Gonzales?" And they sort of said, "Oh, well, he was offensive, so he's cancelled." And Mexicans were going, "No, he's not.
No, he's not. He didn't ask us."
Yeah.
No, they're offensive to white liberal women.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who have no vested interest and aren't really offensive. They want to be offended on behalf of people so they can feel like good people, but they're full of bullshit. They're not authentic people.
We live in a society where the loudest person is the correct person, and unfortunately, that's kind of what happens when people kick off stink on Twitter. It's whoever shouts the loudest seems to be correct, and that's not how the world works. If you've given all the information, like we said, coming back to like South Park, those guys, you can tell. I don't want to say research what they're taking the mick out of, but they understand it, and they've not just given a piece of information which says, so and so and so and so. Well, that's what I choose to believe. They sort of look at it and go, well, actually, so and so is happening, and this is happening, and because of that, and they're getting an understanding. We live in a world where, it's the TikTok generation where you need a 15-minute video to hold somebody's attention, and any longer than that, it's just not going to work. And so when you sort of say, right, do your own research on why Russia is invading Ukraine at the moment. Well, it's just bad, and it's all Putin and everything else. And it's kind of, well, understand it. Why is it going on? And we live in a world where people just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is I see all of this on social media, and I'm like, it's easy to forget that Ukraine is like one of the world capitals of sex, of human trafficking, and money laundering, and that there was a American-led, sponsored coup of the original government in 2014 of Ukraine when they had voted different. And it's very confusing, and there's most of everything. The media wants us to go to war so bad. They want it, and
where do they get all their money laundering? Biden got all his money laundering from Ukraine.
Yeah.
This is really hitting him in the pocketbook, guys.
Is money laundering the new oil?
Apparently,
it's for Biden.
Yeah. The thing is, you can watch the news and see these people on these cable networks, and they're all mouthpieces of something else anyway. But if you pay attention, you can see when they've really hit the point where they look at how many people in the U.S., for example, don't want to be involved at all. And then you see them bring out the old playbook, right, to the real appeal to emotion stuff. And so over the last 12 to 24 hours, I've noticed a lot of headlines and a lot of comparisons to the Holocaust. And here's this guy's talking about evacuating Jewish people from Ukraine. And even I saw a headline was like, if Putin's allowed to take Ukraine, he may go all the way to Europe and Israel. And it's like, there's always that comparison, to World War II. That's they got to get you there. They still think that that's how they get everybody fired up. And if we can just, and all this kind of stuff like that, it's very easy to spot when you see they try, because first it's like, well, the kids, like, oh, here's Granny and we've given her an AK and she's out on the street. Well, that didn't work. And then it was like, well, they're arming the kids. Well, that didn't work. So what do we have next? Well, let's try the Holocaust. Well, that didn't work. Well,
they've used the
gays. They started out. Well, no, listen, when they started out, they were like,
let him go.
Yeah, Putin has a kill list of all of the LGBTQ, and they're going to take them and kill them when they invade. Like, he doesn't care. No. But that was their first thing, right? Was to try to play onto that. Well, we got to get this, and then that didn't work. So what else we got? We got Granny. Well, that didn't work. We're arming the kid. Well, that didn't work. Now, let's try the Holocaust. Well, that's not going to work. What else do we got? Oh, they're going to blow up Chernobyl now and irradiate the whole world. You can see them going through these things to try to gin up support. It's insane.
It's to try and get people. It's weird.
For the American people to go, we need to get in there and do something about this. Putin, they're even starting now. The Soviet Union. They posted a picture of a tank rolling in Ukraine, and it's got an old Soviet flag on it. And they're like, this is so troubling. This is it's like, that's some 17-year-old kid in a tank that he just thinks that's an edgy, cool part of their past. Just like if some U.S. tank had a Confederate flag on it, the dude probably isn't saying like, oh, we're going to bring the South back by invading Iraq. No, it's just something, it mean nothing to them, but they're trying to use that now. Look, this is obvious. No, is there any real communists even in Russia anymore?
It's weird that you say about comparing it to the Holocaust, because I can't remember the guy's name and I can't remember the details, but there was a guy who did an analysis on forums about how arguments go. And he said that when it always descends to like Hitler, that's kind of the end of the argument. That when somebody's
Poe's law or something like that.
There you go.
Godwin's law.
Godwin's law, yeah. Like within two things, it's like it gets to the comparisons to Hitler or something like that, yeah.
And then you say about the images again, but again, it's kind of, you don't know what to believe. That they take these photos and obviously with modern technology, when you think about it, funny enough, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, because I sat down and watched Jurassic Park the other day, because I haven't seen that for a long time, and apparently there was a report of a man who watched King Kong when it came out in like 1939 and killed himself because he was so scared. But if you took back Jurassic Park to that person, obviously, they would completely freak people out.
They wouldn't have made it through the first act.
But when you think about that, though, that's so, when you see images on the TV, you don't know what to believe. Even adverts today can be, have space aliens and all this kind of stuff, and it looks completely real, but who knows what is real and what is fake anymore, unless you are actually there and seeing it for yourself.
Well, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about authenticity and truth. If you're not living an authentic or truthful life in general, as best as you possibly can, I wonder this immediate knee jerk to censorship. I've talked with these people, and I've seen people, like, there's a story that Tim Pool likes to talk about where there's this guy, a black guy who was a jazz musician, that he actually went to Klan gatherings, KKK gatherings, and talked to these guys. Didn't come at them. He just talked with them, tried to understand them. And they talked with him. And by the time they got done, a lot of these guys renounced their Klan membership. They just hadn't heard a different perspective.
Yeah.
This same guy tried to talk to these wokies, and he can't talk to them. He's like, I can't. They are lunatics. They're insane, and they are the quickest to cancel you, to censor you, to stop you. And I think that's because deep down they know that nothing they do is authentic. They can't. They cannot argue any of these points on the merits or on truthfulness or on authenticity. And so their only way of dealing with you is to shut you up, to cancel you, to get rid of you,
shout louder over you,
over you, kill you if they have to.
Yeah. They'll get to that.
They'll get to that. Absolutely.
They've already kind of started,
because it's only about power, and it's only about what they want, and principles, authenticity, truthfulness, it doesn't matter. And so this is, this is right now. It's a problem in our discourse, and our ability to communicate with each other, and our ability to be compassionate towards each other, and to obviously make any good entertainment. Keeps going, then it ends up in the mass grave. And this has been throughout history, So anyway, that's Licorice Pizza, folks.
Who knew that it had such a dark turn?
It was a very deep movie for a love story back in the 70s. I had no idea it would directly reference the Russian invasion of Crimea and the Ukraine in 2022. But there you go.
Paul Thomas Anderson has got a lot to answer for.
He's pretty brilliant. You got to give him credit, man.
Visionary, yeah. Who knew he could predict this a year out?
Like I say, I do think, funny enough, I was going to contact one of the other contributors on Last Movie Outpost in connection with he likes doing his research, and I wanted to make a video on how I think entertainment is slowly becoming worse, and like I say, things like Gogglebox over here, where it's literally just watching people watching television. That's what's considered entertainment. It's really popular over here as well. That's what people think is entertainment these days.
It's pretty clearly popular everywhere. YouTube is full of videos of watch me react to the new Star Wars channel. Just crying like a baby, which is probably you. But
no, I cried when I watched it and coming out.
Yeah, I did cry, but for vastly different reasons than what
reasons.
Yeah. Something tells me that there was different. The reaction that caused was two different.
Well, it's Idiocracy, right? It's like the latest movie that won this year was Butt. And it's just a butt farting for 3 hours. It won all the Oscars.
Would you watch that though?
It's more authentic than the shit that comes out now, right?
I mean, I'd at least watch a few minutes of it just to see,
Again, but it's funny you say that because I watched Idiocracy quite recently, and that bit really did strike a chord with me. That we are getting to a point where whatever seems to be churned out. That's why it's funny because there's still people that defend like The Last Jedi and this kind of thing, and I think to myself, you are so used to just utter garbage being put in front of you that when you've presented with slightly polished garbage, you think it's actually good, as opposed to no, this is garbage. It's a terrible film. And
listen, I'm in a group on Facebook. It's film, this film watching group, and most of them are younger than us by probably 20 years.
So is most everybody, actually.
But they'll talk about stuff, and they think Now You See Me Too is a good movie, and then I'll talk about some of the stuff I watch, and they're like, oh. It's like, listen, these exploitation movies, while they were considered throwaway, disposable trash at the time, have more to say in them and have better in it than any of this, The Last Whatever. That's
why Quentin Tarantino is a national treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can talk one of them into watching one of them, they're like, hey, that was pretty good. It's like, yeah, I know it's pretty good. It's still better than being told that you're bad for being white and straight.
I think back in the day when people made just what they found entertaining. I mean, we mentioned that earlier, that, kind of you find it funny, so you make it, and hopefully other people do. And when that was happening, it was great because it did offend a few people, but it was kind of, so what? Who cares? Those people got offended, so they didn't watch it. But other people found it funny and they enjoyed it and they carried on enjoying it. And again, we're not living in a world where many people do that. They are, like you say, there's a whole agendas to movies, and it's appealing to a very small percentage of those people who aren't really invested in it and everything else. And so it does upset the fans. Scream went into that as well. The new Scream 5 was exactly the same. It went into the whole same thing, and it was just, it was a mockery that was, I don't want to say offensive, and I don't want to say insulting, but it did annoy me.
Lazy.
Yes, lazy. Yeah, that's a perfect word for it.
Tell me something, George. I'm just curious if you had the same reaction I did. But did you watch Idiocracy and you're like, that was funny, you laughed, you enjoyed it, but then you had this sense of disquiet.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember watching it, just going.
The bit that really got me was when he said Joe went to see the movie Ass. It was a man's ass for 90 minutes. Occasionally, it won 8 Oscars that year, and it really did strike a chord with me because, like I say, the new Scream, it is a carbon copy of the first one. But people think, oh, it's great, it's wonderful, and I'm thinking, it's the laziest. It's lazier writing than Gogglebox, because with Gogglebox there's no writing at all. You've just got people sat in front of a TV watching it and filming their reactions. There's zero creativity that goes into it at all. And
it's so bad you wouldn't even give it a compliment by calling it a cash grab.
No, but this is what people think is entertainment these days. And so again, like I say, coming back to Licorice Pizza, when people are presented with a genuine work of art, it's just kind of, oh yeah, it's all right, and it doesn't do very well at the box office because there's not big explosions or vampires or whatever in it. It's a film that people have to use their own brains on, and they hate people for it.
It's pretty sad when I look back at Michael Bay's The Rock and going, that's kind of a masterpiece now.
It is it's a legit entertaining.
It's
movie.
A legit good movie, yeah. But it's like when Michael Bay is kicking your ass, come on. It was fun, but I remember in 96, that was a disposable, really good, but disposable action movie. I look at things like Commando or, stuff back in the 80s, which we just kind of lionize now, maybe more so than we should. Predator and some of these others, they're great. They're fun. They're awesome. But now they look like masterpieces. Mm-hmm. Really weren't. They were solid.
I don't know, man.
Entertainment.
I don't know. They're still put together very well with a lot of attention to detail and certain things. Like, man, Predator really holds up. Not just because of
it's a space slasher movie.
Yeah,
with Arnold's charm.
The Predator looks great.
It does.
Everything in it looks great.
I love Predator. Predator is a great, legit great movie. But I just say, you remember when they came out? It was a new fun space horror movie, and that was all we thought of it. RoboCop, same way. The time has given us a much bigger enjoyment or has elevated these movies much more than they were when they came out at the time. And I think part of that is because so much now comes out is put together so terribly. They can't even bother continuity or little character moments or everything. It's just CGI. It's good.
But
they don't even make movies like that anymore. Like that kind of, and I don't mean quality, but like the idea of like, here's this new movie that's not, it don't cost $150 million, but here it is, and we put real care like they do every once in a while. I guess I'm struggling to think of something recently like that.
No Way Home was. It's shocking that got through. It was as good as it was.
No,
but that's
I
a
will
big
say,
tentpole franchise. I'm talking about something that just comes out of nowhere.
Venom, that's a big tentpole franchise. It sucked ass.
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a movie like Predator that's not a franchise. It doesn't have any. It just comes out. They put this together, really well made movie.
Yeah.
Really great concept, and then it's just here. It stands on its own. It don't have a franchise.
Story and character came first.
They don't make that kind of movie anymore.
No.
I don't think.
I've got to disagree, Sean. I got to disagree, Sean. The only company I think is doing that is A24. They are taking stories. I never know what I'm going to get with an A24 movie.
But I'm not saying that they don't make movies. I misspoke. Maybe a movie that comes out like Predator and it's like an A24 movie, but it becomes a big thing like Predator did. You know what I mean?
But again, that brings us back to the point that, what they are trying to do is put bums on seats. And so with Disney, they're churning out their movies and all they want to do is make money out of it. They don't want to tell an interesting story. A24, I think, is just a little company that they're not going to get massive cinema releases and they're not going to get movies which are going to make, $1 billion in the box office. They are making original stuff, but it's just not being seen by everybody, because the mass media is pointing us towards the fact that we've got to go and see these movies by these bigger corporations.
Did you guys did you happen to check out that Bloody Hell that I mentioned last week? That was on Amazon. That is a small little, I will call it like a survival horror comedy, and it's a lot of fun. I wish you guys would see it because you'd really like it. I will put it on my list and I will make sure I watch it. I'm going to do it now. Yeah, do that right now.
What's it called? Bloody Hell?
Bloody Hell. It's on Amazon. You have to go on to Amazon Prime and watch it. I think it's not free on Amazon if you've got Amazon Prime, but it's like $3. It's worth buying for $3. Really, it's great. They did a lot with very little in that movie. It's very good, very entertaining.
Have you guys watched Reacher yet? I'm hearing good things about it.
I did, yeah. I watched the whole thing
Me
a couple
too.
Weeks ago, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Is it good?
It was, it was very good series.
Great, man.
I've been on and off watching The Expanse, which I've liked. It's getting better in the second season. The first season's it drags a little bit, but it ends up good. And it's just there's a whole lot going on, and you really have to invest. And you cannot just watch it in the background. Let's put it that way. It ain't Boba Fett.
It is kind of annoying because it's now and then I've still got a few foreign films I want to get through watching, and it is difficult to invest the time in them, when you've got to read all the subtitles and that kind of thing. And so, like I say, Reacher, for me, I did sit down and watch every episode and I got quite invested in it. But it was kind of, if I made a cup of tea, I didn't kind of bother pausing it because I wasn't going to miss like massive amounts type of thing. But it was a good series. It's
very good. And that's not to say that it doesn't have sloggy points in the episodes either. Yeah. You can do that real quick, like he said, but it's not. There are not episodes where you're just like, oh God, come on. It's legit all the way through. I probably could nitpick a couple of things, but that is only because they're like retarded gun technical like stupidity. But that's Hollywood.
Here comes the ammo sexual.
Hey man, don't judge, don't kink shame.
Have you guys seen the chat? Because we've been joined by Madding. And he's just said that long sleeves or more push-ups, Yoda.
That was hurtful.
Wimpy arms.
I will do neither.
I like a man that takes, that's like, no, I'm just no.
No, yeah. I'm a fat slob, and I'm happy about it.
What you don't know is that Maddink is actually, like I say, probably a very sexy lady. And so when she's saying more long sleeves or more push-ups, she's actually coming on to you there, Yoda. Apologies, Maddink, if you are not. Which I'm assuming you are not. I don't imagine any women
that
watch
is
this.
Wishful thinking if I've ever heard it.
It's a fun fantasy to have.
He's just said that a movie with subtitles is exactly as long as a movie without subtitles. The difference being is with subtitles, obviously you've got to fully pay attention to the whole thing.
You have to watch it twice because the first time you read it, the second time you watch it.
Especially if it's like a South Korean movie or something, Oh yeah. Because they'll have like a lot of talking and then some very,
I generally prefer the dub. But I will admit, I preferred Crouching Tiger with subtitles.
I
don't know why.
I'm not a snob either. I'm like you. I will opt for the dub usually myself.
Most of the time, they do a reasonably good job.
Yeah.
I started watching All of Us Are Dead, which is the new South Korean
I saw that. Is it good?
It's just 3 hours of just a mass grave being filmed. Oh, look, there's flies.
This is definitely some French, and it's some French masterpiece. Oh my God, this is brilliant.
No, and again, I watched it dubbed because I couldn't be that invested in the story, and it's not bad. I've only just learned it's like 12 episodes, and they're about an hour long each.
What's the synopsis on it? Give us a quick.
It's a zombie outbreak in a school.
I'm tired of zombie shit.
Yeah,
it was done fairly well.
And this is a guy that's got a Dawn of the Dead movie poster behind him. I'm tired of zombie stuff.
I've been tired of zombies for about 5 years now.
Yeah, it's me, man. It's for a while. Like, I can't think of the last time I watched a zombie movie. It's like, man, that's good. I really last time I watched Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, probably.
I think for me, the last decent, I need to watch it again.
The last decent zombie movie, I think, original one, was Train to Busan.
Yeah, that was pretty good because
I just liked the whole constricted area and everything else. I think that worked really well. But I mean, yeah, like you say, with zombie movies, they are kind of, if you've seen one, you've seen them all.
They've been kind of non-stop since Zack Snyder remade it in 2004, right? And it's
I'll
just
never forgive him for that.
Zombies ever since. It's like,
and that was one of his few good movies too.
Yeah. I did like Zombieland, not the second one.
I did.
I
like Zombieland. Yeah, I admit to that. I liked Zombieland, the first one.
I can't remember that.
And of course, Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
of course. Yes, that is a good. I watched that last night not because I put it in, but because it was on one of the movies. That's what she said. Yeah. She was passed out, so I figured she was already in the right position.
Rape is such an ugly word. Let's call it involuntary sex.
No, forced non-consensual lovemaking, as I like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Shaun of the Dead is good again because I know places that are very much like that. The Winchester, I've been in hundreds of pubs that are like that.
You know what? That was probably my first introduction to legit funny British comedy, and watching it last night I realized some of the stuff they say and the way they say it and the timing would not work if it was if it was the exact same stuff but done it US way. It would just not be funny. Just like when he's up there and they're getting ready to leave and they don't know if Pete's dead and he's like, Pete, and then he goes, oi prick. That would not work that would not work if it
No, but you could do something like in the vein of Tucker and Dale. You could do a zombie movie like a Deep South kind of thing if you do it right. I bet you could have some fun with that.
Yeah.
But again, it's funny how certain things don't translate. I mean, I remember Fawlty Towers. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's by John Cleese, and it's based on a.
Very vaguely familiar with it.
In Britain, it's kind of it's a classic, and everybody knows Fawlty Towers. But they tried to do it in America, and it just didn't work because John Cleese was that uptight British. He was very British about the whole thing, and that's what made it work. And obviously, if you try to translate it to a different country, it doesn't work the same.
Well, the accent makes stuff funnier to me anyway. I don't know why, but just certain things, like just certain cuss words, like Simon Pegg will say them, and it just seems so much funnier to me.
Point of order? Mad Ink says Hot Fuzz is way better. Agreed.
I don't know. I go back and forth on it. Sometimes I think it's better. Sometimes I guess
I like Hot, and maybe just because I'm just not a huge fan of the zombie genre, even though I think that's a great movie. But I love good action flicks. And so Hot Fuzz really resonates with me a lot more.
I've got to say Hot Fuzz for me because it is filmed up the road from where I live. As if you look on the lastmovieoutpost.com, you can see the whole. I visited where some of it was set, but also it's because I do believe there are many villages in Britain which have a society like that in them for the greater good.
What about the World's End? I like that.
World's End I like a lot, but I think it's the weakest of the three of the Cornettos.
Yeah, I did not like the switch up of making what's his name, the straight man, to Simon Pegg's goofy screw up. It kind of works in that, but I prefer it. I don't know, but I think it has some pretty good stuff.
I mean, how can you not love a movie where Timothy Dalton gets stabbed through it with a church? And then he's still alive. It's really hurt.
And the best payoff of that was the Aaron A. Aronson. You know, that was such a good payoff at the end of that. I don't know. Did you guys like the team up of those two and Paul? Like, now we're all sick of Seth Rogen, but those two, I've always said that my favorite part of that movie is the point up until they meet Paul, because those two just being at Comic-Con and goofing around and stuff. I could have just watched a movie of that.
Yeah,
you need to, if you can, catch the TV series, which was directed by Edgar Wright, with those two in, called Spaced.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Lots of movie references.
Scenes of it. I remember the scene where Peg is just going off on somebody about Star Wars. You weren't there. You didn't know. You know, you would be stupid, and just going off on the prequels and everything. It's great.
Hold that thought. That is the one funniest thing I liked about Clerks 2, is when the two nerds get in the argument over Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings, and that one guy gets mad. He's like, I just made fun of Lord of the Rings so hard I made some super nerd vomit.
Yeah, because he told him that, he says he would have given it a much better rating if at the very end, if Sam had straight up bricked in Frodo's mouth.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my god.
On the chat there, Reaver of Souls says Simon Pegg is a terrible Scotty, which I have to agree with. A better casting would have done for him.
I thought he would be a cool guy until I've read, like, he wrote that last Star Trek movie and made Sulu gay, and he went all woke. I was like, man, I always kind of imagined him as being kind of a reasonably,
back in the day with the early comedy stuff that he's done in the UK and stuff, it is brilliant. But again, they weren't writing for the whole woke society. They were just writing what they thought was funny. And then Maddings has just said that The World's End has the choreography done by a guy who fought Jackie Chan in Gorgeous. That's right, Bradley Allen, I think he was called. Yeah, he passed away at about 48. Because I think the fight with Jackie Chan and Bradley Allen in Gorgeous is one of the best fights ever done.
Have you guys seen speaking of fight core, have you guys seen The Raid and The Raid 2?
Oh,
it's on my list.
Absolutely.
Those are masterpieces.
I need to get those done. I've heard nothing but great things, and I just keep not getting around to it for whatever reason.
I know. I need to get it done. For a treat.
I'll get
You're
it
in
done.
for a treat.
Now you talk about a breath of fair share of real action. Now those were great.
Yeah.
There's no quick cuts or shaky cam during the fights. It's a work of art. It's a real, it's so violent. It's great.
It's just I was brought up on the early Jackie Chans and the way they would pan back from the action and just let the choreography pan out. And so when I think it was like Transporter 3 for some reason sticks in my head, and also actually Mortal Kombat by Paul W.A. Anderson, every punch had a cut, and it was just it was awful.
Yeah.
But the Raid, the fighting is brutal, and I mean there's proper like holy shit moments in there.
Yeah, there's no taking a punch and not showing it either. They get absolutely pummeled, and you see it. They get tired. It's very probably not real. Real fight. It's only a couple seconds, but
I first knew Jackie Chan from like the Cannonball Run. And I didn't know much about him, other than that fight that he had in the against all the bikers, which was hilarious because he was doing all the fighting and like his buddy was back behind him and he kept in the fighting stance, but all he did was make sure that he stood behind Jackie the whole time. And then, but I didn't really know that much about him, or, I just didn't have that much access to those kinds of films. And then they gave a U.S. release in '94 to Rumble in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And I first saw that movie. I loved it. I was like,
I think it's a little over. Yeah,
it is. It's extremely over the top. There's better Jackie Chan movies. Once I saw Super Cop and some of the other stuff, but I remember that was the first time I really
that can't be stopped.
Yeah,
there's a callback from your favorite Simon Pegg and Nick Frost there.
But I watched him in that in that movie doing all those stunts and, you know, going in and out of carts, shopping carts and things like that. And just, I had not realized, I was like discovering, you know, this masterpiece of a stuntman, this Harold Lloyd-esque Bruce Lee. It's a combination of Harold Lloyd and Bruce Lee, or Buster Keaton and Bruce Lee together, you know. And
Where did I mention that somewhere on what was I talking about?
You're probably talking about Jackie Chan.
No. And what's his name? James Mangold is doing a biopic of Buster Keaton, and again, Buster Keaton was somebody I was brought up on, and I mean his stunts when you watch them are unbelievable. But I put up a video on the article I did of comparing Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan and Buster Keaton with doing very similar stunts to each other, because Jackie Chan was so inspired by those those sort of comics who did their own stunts.
But I like Drunken Master, Legend of Drunken Master. And
don't you hate it when you see like a comedy and it's got better action in it than most of the legit action movies? That's a pet peeve of mine. Me and my friend have always talked about the 2007 Transformers movie, and you know the scene where the soldiers, they're on a run, they go to that little like abandoned village. And they start fighting the Scorpion Transformer, and then they call in the Air Force, and it's got this really intense, great, you know, battle scene. And we both for years have been like, why don't they make a war movie with like a action fighting scene that intense? They never can pull it off to be that, you know. That
the opening of Save It Private Ryan wasn't enough for you?
No, it wasn't.
You beat me to it.
It wasn't bloody enough for me. It wasn't realistic enough to satisfy me.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The minute they started using CGI instead of squibs, that's when I feel like around the same time action.
You know what? Bringing back Saving Private Ryan, I got a bone to pick when I did months ago my thing about the war movies, and somebody I criticized the ending of Saving Private Ryan, and people were like, "Oh, they held the bridge out of honor. Haven't you ever heard of honor?" And no, that's not how it works. They would have blown any real military unit would have blown the bridge and left the Germans stuck on the other side until the regular forces came up with bridging equipment.
That's not as dramatic.
You know what I would have done? I would have shot Tom Hanks and then said, "Let's go, fellas. This is stupid. We're going to die defending a bridge." And if we lose, the Germans will have a bridgehead to attack our landing forces.
Yeah, or just shot Ryan when you found him. Yeah, he didn't make it. Sorry.
Yeah. It would have been justifiable because it is Matt Damon. You know, who doesn't want to shoot him now?
Criticizing me for missing the point of Licorice Pizza, or not seeing the artistry. Just blow up the fucking bridge and move on. Okay.
Well, if you're trying to go into reality, which Saving Private Ryan obviously was trying to be very realistic to show you never mind the idiocy of a sniper going to a bell tower with no way out. That's stupid. Oh, yeah. You don't do that. That's the obvious play. You know that.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. Actually,
It's a great dramatic movie. It's a terrible movie for war and tactics.
I know two friends over here.
Most of them are.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I've got two friends over here who are very much war experts and stuff, and I said to them about 1917, and both of them went, and I said, what was wrong with it? And they said, right, for starters, nobody was clean.
Yeah, that's what I said too. Yeah, the trenches were like immaculate. That's the first thing I thought when I watched it. Like, is this the first day of the war? Because they looked like, like they were up to their.
It was just after the maids had been in and cleaned up.
Yeah, like where's the mud? There was no mud.
I am shocked that World War I, everybody didn't just die of the stench, let alone the bullets. You forget about the latrines and all that. Nobody changed their clothes for months.
Yeah.
I mean, that was some rank shit going on. World War I don't think people appreciate how horrifically awful it was.
Yeah. According to Warhorse, it looked like fun.
Hell, it looked like fun in 1917, really. They're all sitting around drinking in the green grass, and there's still a barn in condition enough to have a cow.
I appear to have got a little bit of mud on me. I'll just stand that off. Super Cop 3. Okay, I'm pretty sure I've seen it. Buster Keaton is the Jackie Chan of the 20s. How Buster Keaton never died and his stunts is insane.
Careful planning, probably. Or he had a stunt guy that died first, and then they said, okay, make sure I'm 5 inches to the left if you do this for real.
Banshee had some bad CGI. Banshee?
That was a Showtime series from a few years ago. The guy that's the Homelander and the boys played the main character in it. You probably have not seen.
No, I've not seen it. I don't have Showtime, so there's a lot.
It's not. It's you're not.
I had planned on doing a video on Jackie Chan, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to publish it because it's going to have so much. Because I want to show the best of his fights, and it's difficult to do that on YouTube because they're gonna issue the copyright and everything else. But it's a shame because I mean, again, if you just do a search on Jackie Chan, his stuff is fantastic. There are hit and miss. I do think, like with Rumble in the Bronx, when he came to America, he tried to make them for American audiences, and for me, they didn't work as well as his earlier stuff and whatnot.
That's when he started making shit like The Spy Next Door, and
Yeah. It didn't even film that in Canada too, like some Canadian Quebec, like the Bronx is in Quebec apparently. I think it does not look like.
I did like Shanghai Noon. I got to admit.
Oh, well, that's terrible. I would not admit that.
I do. I like it. It's fun. Shanghai Night sucked, but Shanghai Noon.
Yeah. I also hate Brett Ratner he did Rush Hour, and I remember him saying that he's the person who convinced Jackie Chan that his stunts might kill him. And it was just like, really, Brett? Wow, you know the stunts that Jackie's done in these movies beforehand, where he's broken his back and his neck and everything else. He didn't know that he could have died from doing those. Well done, Brett. And I've always hated Brett Ratner for that. That at the end of X-Men 3. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this off my chest now. The end of X-Men 3, they go to a facility to find a mutant who can quash mutants. They rescue that person, and then Jean goes completely ballistic, and the only way to rescue her is for Wolverine to kill her. Why not use the mutant who can kill mutant powers, who you've just saved and then just disappears? You could have just turned her back to Jean Grey. I've always hated the end of that film.
That's where they messed up by not having her get the Phoenix power from an external, universe cosmic thing. And they're always trying, oh no, it's because she's got this power. And I get it. They don't want to have to introduce, this bigger concept,
which is what they tried to do in the third of the prequel movies, didn't they?
I don't know.
And it didn't work in there either. And actually, that annoys me as well because they had Jessica Chastain in it, and they had a really ugly.
She's ugly.
Shut up, Sean.
I got bad news for you.
Shut up, Sean. I knew that was coming. Shut up.
Sorry to be the one to break it to you, but it's better that you hear it from me than some stranger.
Oh. Now, what are you on about? Okie doke. Right, are we gonna wrap up?
I think we've
covered Licorice Pizza to death.
Yeah. So what's our final thoughts on Licorice Pizza? I think it's a masterpiece. It's a great romantic, sentimental movie, and I'm a sentimental fool, so I loved it.
I would use the word masterpiece on it as well. I think it was fantastic.
I would say that after watching that, Russia shouldn't have invaded Ukraine. I don't know.
Careful there. Yeah, all right.
It was a stretch to find that message in there, I'll admit, but I liked it a lot. I think I would watch it again. I enjoyed it a lot. Maybe my expectations were set a little high based on some of his other stuff, and I wasn't quite at that level.
No, fair enough.
That's fair.
But
we should
10 times better than most anything else I've seen this year.
We could talk about other things, like for the example, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed West Side Story the other day.
I talked about that, didn't I?
When it came out, you said you liked it.
I liked it a lot. I didn't. I thought there was some odd woke nonsense in there with the trans thing and all that, but
that just killed any chance of me seeing it.
But it was.
Funny enough, I didn't bring that up in my review because it didn't.
I don't know what they were trying to do there, but I mean, it's like if you're trying to put some trans stuff in there, it was stupid because it didn't really make sense in the 50s.
No, Madlink asked if Licorice Pizza is like the Nice Guys. No, it's not like Nice Guys. I mean, they're both set in the 70s. That's about it.
Yeah.
And there's Americans in them.
Yeah, that's probably
yeah.
It's much better than Nice Guys, actually. Nice Guys is a great movie. It's funny and all, but it's not. It ain't Licorice Pizza.
Definitely give Licorice Pizza a try. I said in my review, there was nothing about the trailer that interested me about it at all. I was not looking forward to it. I would have been quite happy to miss it, but I was.
I like the trailer a lot. I was like,
me too. The trailer's what,
but
the trailer's what sold me on it.
I think I think that's being an American and having lived in the 70s, part of it, and part of it just the coming of age stuff. But I guess I was just slightly put off. And I want you guys, I mean, when I say that my criticisms, they're very mild. Okay. It's not like I didn't love or like the movie. It's just, I wish it had just had a little bit better, little less choppy editing, I guess.
You hated it. We get it.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
You got terrible.
We live in a pine area, apparently.
You hate it and think it's a Nazi. It's the worst thing since the Holocaust. We get it. Okay.
Okay, I'm canceling you both.
Well, you're the one that said it, not me.
Just I own the channel. Screw you both. Everybody gets canceled. No, I just
invade his channel like it's Ukraine.
Why is it this whole thing that we do always picks up about an hour and 50 minutes into
it? I don't know.
We got an hour and 50 minutes of filler and 10 minutes of pure gold.
This is when I'm talking so long that the oxygen has left my brain and now just random synapses are firing, buddy. Let me ask you. I mean, do you put this above There Will Be Blood? Or Boogie Nights?
I put it above Boogie Nights, but
I would.
It's weird because I haven't seen. I saw There Will Be Blood, I think, last year again, and it is a great movie. But I was more vested in Gary and Elena than I was with, that character of Daniel Day-Lewis in.
You know what? You're right. I was too. So yeah. Now that you bring that, you made me think.
And I was more vested in Punch Drunk Love. With those two characters, but I feel like there's so much more artistry and color use and things going on that I just feel like I'm always peeling back a layer every time I see that.
It's because you're such an Adam Sandler fan. Just admit it, man. It's okay to like Adam Sandler.
It's in spite of Adam Sandler.
Punch Drunk Love is good, but it's no Happy Gilmore.
It's no Grown Ups too. I can tell you that much.
I'm not going to disagree with you on the actual words that you said in that sentence. You're right. It is no Happy Gilmore.
Again, I haven't seen Punch Drunk Love for a lot. I think I'm going to have to go back and rewatch some of Paul Thomas Anderson stuff because it's been a while since I've seen them.
Yeah.
So again, I need to go back and then I can maybe compare better to what I thought of Licorice Pizza.
Don't get me wrong. I think there's layers going on in Licorice Pizza as well. And I think the strongest piece of it is seeing all these failed or weird relationships that maybe work or maybe don't. And that her having that discovery, I think, is the strongest parts of the film. I love that. And I just felt like I had to work a little bit harder to see all that than I did in some of his other movies. He always has awesome themes going on. He also always has good, subtle symbolism and uses these different characters to bolster whatever theme he's trying to do. I think he's great at it.
He makes movies as well that you can rewatch and see something new every time.
I would watch this again in a heartbeat, no doubt.
Inherent Vice is his weakest movie for me, and not to say
I think everybody. I think that's generally he that was a bit of a misfire, but I don't know. I mean, like I said, I love the griminess of it, the 70s griminess. I love that everybody looked interesting and was interesting. I think the funniest guy is definitely the guy who owns the Chinese restaurant. Is just horribly racist to his own wife. What do you think of that?
So it's a Japanese restaurant, you racist bigot that can't tell the difference. They're not all the same, Yoda.
Didn't I say Japanese restaurant?
No, you said Chinese, like some
okay,
kind
that
of
was
bigot.
Yeah, well, yeah, but everybody knows that about me.
Yeah.
Somebody,
I
what's
only
his name?
like
Alex has
African
just said,
American kids, not Chinese ones. That's what I adopt.
who are you, Angelina Jolie?
That's right.
Talk about a virtue signal. He's going to talk about,
my adopted kids. Yep,
kids.
That's my get out of racism free card.
That's how. See, it's proof that you can be an exalted Cyclops in this KKK as long as you adopt these black children.
Right.
That's his cover story.
Yeah, that's why I gave up decades of my life and money and everything else so I could just make jokes on YouTube.
Pretty hardcore, man. I gotta.
Yeah, I'm committed to the bit.
And Mannix is just.
Yeah, I know my daughter's watching this, laughing her ass off right now.
Mannix has just said that Grown Up 2's underrated. I'm gonna disagree with that. I think Grown Ups was better because it had Jamie Chung in it, and she wasn't in the second one.
Indeed. She is pretty. She unlike Yoda, who hates Asian women, I find them very attractive and lovely.
Oh, I mean, they're at the top of my porn list. I don't know.
Look at my search history. Look.
Yeah, nothing but Asian hot chicks. Yeah.
I spent an entire month in Thailand one time.
And this is where we get demonetized permanently.
We never had a chance anyway.
We're being diverse.
Yes.
Yoda, not Yoda, Sean, you probably want to check out episode 6 of Lovecraft, the Lovecraft Country. Terrible series, but just watch episode 6 for Jamie Chung.
Oh, is she in it?
Oh, yes.
She was in the new season of Dexter.
Oh, was she? I'm not bothered.
I couldn't be bothered to watch it.
I liked it, man.
I waited for everybody to say. They said, "Yep, they shit the bed with the ending again." I was like, "Okay."
No, I don't think so. I mean, and
that's from somebody who shits the bed a lot.
Exactly. No, I'm a hardcore fan of Dexter, and it was fine.
Fair enough. Oh yeah, she was apparently. Yeah, she was in a few episodes. She is lovely. Sorry,
I like her.
Looking through some of her films.
That's the one thing that Zack Snyder did right is he put her in that schoolgirl costume in
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. Yeah.
See, I've always hated Raza, the director who made what was it called, Man with the Iron Fists, and that was set in a Chinese brothel, and you didn't see any nudity.
I know it. And it was supposed to be an exploitation film to boot. Ugh. Very pitiful.
Yeah. Never forgave him for that. Every time I see him, I saw him in something recently, and I just thought, stupid man.
Yeah. Man, when you're lazy with your exploiting, that's hardcore laziness right there.
I mean, how hard is it to just show a woman? She don't even have to put a shirt on.
I know.
How lazy do you
He's saving on costume costs.
Yeah, oh, goodness me.
Wardrobe should be nothing, and yeah.
Exactly. It's not like you have a hard time figuring out what to wear. There's a terrible movie anyway. Russell Crowe's in it.
Yeah, it is awful.
All you had to say.
Not that he's a bad actor, but he's not good.
He's just, he was completely, utterly miscast for that in every way, shape, and form.
It's like, we got $10,000 extra. What should we do with it? Russell Crowe's filming over, 20 miles away.
2 blocks away, yeah.
Yeah, we could probably get him to make an appearance for 5-10 minutes of the show.
Right. Anyway, so Yoda, are we going to wrap up?
I think we should before we get arrested. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been another live stream from Last Movie Outpost, as we call it, the Outpost Frequencies, episode 60. I haven't been keeping track.
We run a tight ship around here.
That's right. You can obviously listen to this on all the podcasting stations. We do put up the audio a week later, somewhere around there, whenever the hell I feel like it. You can reach us at lastmovieoutpost.com. You can email us, contact us at lastmovieoutpost.com. If you have some entertainment tidbit or something you want to share, please email us and we'll discuss it and reject it outright. No, we do put up some user contributing. We call it Outpost contributors, but if you have something, we definitely will we'll put that up because we are fan driven, we are fan made, and we try to engage in that way. So we want to be as authentic as possible. You can see us at Movie Outpost on Twitter. I'm at Drunken Yoda 1. He's at Not George Lucas 1. And Sean will shoot you in the head if you come anywhere near his property.
That's accurate.
We appreciate you coming on and chatting with us, especially you, Matic 1. We love the interaction.
He doesn't want us to go now. He said that this is the best part of the show. So
I know we're on a roll. Yeah, problem is I'm going to pass out pretty soon if I don't get some food.
We are sorry, Madding, but we are going to have to do like you and go and talk to our
probation officers. I'm pretty sure we're having some parole violations just by.
Yoda's got to get to his KKK meeting.
That's true. I know. I wear a black hood. Does that count for anything?
Yeah, man. They got. I mean, they go by their
can
be different colors.
Well, they go by their new name
it's
now.
It's what's inside that counts.
You do know they've rebranded now, right? They're called Antifa. You keep calling them KKK.
Oh.
They're Antifa.
That's Antifa.
Yeah, they changed.
That sounds like an unfunny Asian woman in a movie. Oh no, Aquafina. That's what I'm thinking. I'm sorry.
Hey. We're officially off of our roll now after that joke.
I'm pretty sure, yes. That's
that
the
killed
end of
it.
Excuse me, my Bond joke last week is giving me a pass for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
You've got one more episode. Yes, we'll give you. It was good. Coctopussy was fantastic.
That was good.
Thank you. Again, that was £200 not wasted on Woody Allen.
He couldn't think up anything that funny. Not nowadays, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, should we wrap this up? Sean, you
Yeah.
got anything else to say? Are you
No, go watch
cleaning your
Licorice
gun?
Pizza.
I don't know.
I will be doing that, yes.
Okay.
But I might watch Licorice Pizza again before I do that, though.
I will give
watch it.
What's the one you want to be? What's it called? Bloody
Bloody hell.
Bloody Hell.
Yeah.
I will give that. I'll give that a shot.
And maybe if tonight or tomorrow, maybe the new review I did on Thriller, A Cruel Picture, aka They Call Her One Eye, should go live I guess, who knows, soon.
Probably tomorrow.
That's another one you should check out, but it's not for the faint of heart. That is a very, very exploitation film, and I mean that in the most literal way. So might not be for everybody, but if you like that kind of movie, you will definitely like it.
George?
Hello.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, if you're going to enjoy Licorice Pizza, please just enjoy the movie. I don't recommend the food. It was not nice.
Did you use black licorice? You should have used black licorice.
Oh, that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
It's me being racist. I only choose white stuff.
I only use red.
You don't use it's too fruity. You got to use the bite of the black licorice.
There's only one kind of black thing he puts in his mouth, and it ain't licorice.
So subscribe to our
it's
channel.
The jelly beans. It's the jelly beans, man.
I don't know why you would subscribe to our channel at this point, but sure, go ahead. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button. Why not? I'll beg. I don't care.
If you had a YouTube channel, we'd subscribe to you.
You would think.
Yeah.
But
yeah, hit subscribe. If you had we'd subscribe to you if you had a YouTube channel.
We have lots of stuff going on the YouTube channel. Of course, we got the Overlook series. I have done a new series called Entertainment News that I'm doing weekly, which wraps up all the great stories. If you just can't get to lastmovieoutpost.com, I will give them to you in bite-sized, fun-sized form. Just like those little tiny Butterfingers that you used to get at Halloween that you threw back at the house because they were too small. Anyway, we will move on. I'm flailing here, guys. I'll admit it.
Butterfinger sounds awful. As a
pretty
British
good.
person, I'm going to Google it. I'm sure there's a Royal 2034 on there or somewhere about it.
They're a good candy. I would give them a try.
It's real good. It's definitely good.
Yes. All right. So I think we should wrap it up before we say something that will truly get us in trouble. But we will see you next week at the same time.
At the movies. Oh.
12 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. UK time. And for the rest of the world, we don't care about you. So you figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Take care, guys. I'll see you next week on the next stream.